it's storming. The rain is pounding hard on the streets below with an oppressive force, and two shadows charge towards a lonely apartment building. The wet door handle to the building slips between the hunched figure's cold and desperate fingers. The hand lunges again, while a second, smaller figure lurking behind the first whimpers between hurried breaths and clasps their hands around their companion's arm. "Hurry!" the smaller silhouette pleads, sounding on the edge of tears, as if should the door not open soon, all will be lost. The world will end, and their very existence is forfeit to the eternal finality of oblivion. "It's locked!" The larger the pair yells, trying to make their voice heard of the daunting and world-shattering storm that nips at the heels of their souls. The smaller one squirms with like every second wasted is one breath closer to the end. The figure shoves against the door while squeezing the handle, twisting the thrice-blasted knob with all their strength, until finally it broke free from the caked-on drywall dust and rusted corrosion. "I got it!" The couple tumble through the open threshold and pile atop one another unceremoniously on the floor of the building before the larger one scrambles to his feet to slam the door shut behind him, locking it quickly. "Where's the bathroom?" The smaller counterpart pleads in a feathery but crystalline voice, taking off their soaked hood to reveal the shivering woman with curly black hair. "That's what you were yelping in my ear for? How am I supposed to know? We didn't even know where we are." The man who had broken through the door retorts as he takes off his hood too, but only because his has a hole in it. He's damper than his partner. For now, anyway. "Jehoiakim, find me the bathroom right now or I'm going to scream." The woman snaps, shaking water from her hair before fixing her male compatriot in a hard glare. Jehoiakim's eyes dart left to right as he desperately scans his surroundings to ascertain what kind of building they're even in, so he can determine where, if at all, a bathroom is. This woman's wrath was not one he wanted the headache of bearing right now. The floor is a dirty fake tile you can get for cheap to imitate better than nothing. The lights above are dimmed and waning, and at one end of the hall stands a weathered stairwell going up, whilst on the other, a door with a simple sign that reads, "Manager." The thought instantly pierces his mind. The answer is obvious. There is no public bathroom in here. It's an apartment building, and I doubt the residential doors will be as flimsy as that one was. The woman groans exasperatedly. "Give me your jacket, I'm going back outside. Keep the door open." Jehoiakim sighs deeply as he peels his jacket off before helping her put it on, opening the door for her. The storm's dull rumble grows to a roar, accompanied by rain sharply slapping their bodies, as the woman pulls both hoods over her hair and goes outside, soaking herself once more while her partner keeps the slightly mangled door open for her. Jehoiakim scrutinizes the room again over his shoulder, trying to keep a lookout in case anyone shows up. Maybe the manager is still here. Maybe they'll show up and ask who they are. Do they live here? What room are they in? Maybe they should leave. Maybe they should just die already. "Look at this!" The woman rushes back inside, carrying a large piece of plastic in her hand. She kicks the door shut and gives it to him with a wide grin. He looks at the plastic, and the first thing he reads is, "No entry. Under renovations." He meets the woman's now sparkling gaze once more. "Olu, do you know what this means?" Olu takes off her jackets and gives one back to her boyfriend. "Yeah, maybe we can stay here for a bit." Jehoiakim smiles. The first Olu has seen in weeks, and it makes her smile too. She knows it won't last long, but after everything they've been through, she savors it, because it might be their last together. There's stairs over there." Jehoiakim points to the end of the hall. "Let's see if we can find an empty room upstairs, maybe one they already finished." The soaked and desperate couple quickly, but calmly, make their way up the stairs. Once they reach the second floor, Jehoiakim disembarks at the landing of the staircase to look for a room, while Olu is already making her way towards the next floor. They look back at each other, clearly holding different ideas, and Jehoiakim stops moving. However, like a car revving its engines to impress deaf girls on the street, he wants to keep it moving. Olu looks down at him from her step, and she nods slightly. All it takes is just a steady gaze with welcoming yet insistent eyes, and Jehoiakim turns around to follow her up the stairs. The third floor seems to have the most work done. Several of the metal doors are open at the end of the hall, with trappings and evidence of construction poking out like roots out of a sidewalk. "If we break in, they'll know something is wrong," Olu intones. "Hopefully the doors aren't locked." Jehoiakim starts trying knobs, and the couple begins working their way down the hallway to open doors. The closer they get to the rooms cluttered with construction, the harder it will be to stay hidden when the workers return, if they've already left. Clang! The couple gasp in unison, the kind of deep, fearful, but quiet and hushed gasp that pierces the soul. Something made a noise coming from one of the open rooms, a metallic metal-on-metal sound, causing Jehoiakim to wipe a drip of sweat, or perhaps rain, from his forehead and looks at the door. Olu gulps and tries the next knob, her breath catching again as it actually turns in her hand, and she hurriedly motions to her boyfriend. He swiftly darts towards her, and they slip into the room together, locking it silently behind them. The room they've entered is a one-bedroom apartment. The walls are freshly painted white, with the most noticeable spot being on the living room wall. The window is also brand new. This room smells like actual shit. I thought they renovated it. Olu pinches her nose as she searches for a light switch. Jehoiakim's normally steady mutter is edged with nerves as he responds, "No, that smells like something died. Maybe a rat or a family. It gotta be in the wall somewhere." Olu finds a switch and flips the light on so they might explore the apartment proper, venturing deeper into the apartment as Jehoiakim heads towards the kitchen. Fridge is stocked. We might have to switch rooms if they're using this one as a cooler. Jehoiakim can hear Olu giggling, and she calls for him in the bedroom, pointing at the wall as he enters. "Now, what do you suppose happened here?" On the wall above the bed are two very detailed handprints inside the paint, spread apart from each other as if they were smooshed in there before it was dry. Jehoiakim smiles wryly and shakes his head. "Painter's having a good time. Hey, I don't know if we should be in this room long. You hear me about the fridge?" Olu nods and walks out of the room, calling over her shoulder. "Okay, we'll look for another room after," but cutting off as they hear footsteps coming down the hall. She panics, retreating back into the room with Jehoiakim and diving underneath the bed. The light is still on. Jehoiakim starts towards the living room, but as the footsteps pounding against the floor draw closer, he realizes if he goes back to the living room, he'll get caught. Retracing his steps in the same manner as his girlfriend had, he beelines for underneath the bed with Olu, where they lie, holding each other and wait, hoping whoever it is doesn't come into the bedroom. The footsteps stop outside the apartment door, and the faint metal jingling of keys is heard before the front door's lock clicks. The door swings open and footsteps enter into the apartment. Olu's eyes are squeezed shut, and Jehoiakim is holding his breath. their hearts beating fast enough to break through their chests. God damn it, Earl, you left the light on again. The intruder's voice mutters as the footsteps stomp towards the kitchen. The fridge opens and then slams shut again before the footsteps recede towards the front door. The man closes it behind him and locks it. Well, that was close, Jehoiakim whispers. Dave! Another voice shouts from the hallway. You said leave these doors open, right? We ain't coming back till Wednesday. Is that okay? Yeah, that's what the owner said, because he won't give us any keys. If you lock 'em, I can't get in. Hey, our room still smells like shit, man. We gotta do something about that or we'll lose our deposit. Makes us look bad if we can't even keep our own room clean. The aforementioned Dave burps before responding, his voice a faint echo. Nah, it's in the walls, man. We gotta dig it out of there for that. Anyway, just be happy we got another place. Who cares if we lose it? Let's go. The men proceed down the hall, their voices fading as their distance grows, and the couple breathe a sigh of relief. Olu opens her eyes, and she can see Jehoiakim smiling. What are you so happy about? She hisses, smacking his arm. Jehoiakim giggles. Are you serious? They just said they won't be back for 2 days. We can actually sleep good for once. Olu smiles back at him as that realization dawns on her and caresses his face. You want to put 2 more handprints in the wall? They both burst into laughter as the feeling of being at unease washes away in what feels like a moment suspended in forever for them. The rain hasn't stopped. Shards of ice pelt the windows, and precipitation is starting to blanket them. Olu stares out the window with blank eyes at the street down below. The streets, flooding with rain, are abandoned even of wildlife. Despite the heater blaring on full blast, the apartment is freezing, and Olu is shivering. Her arms crossed over her small torso to keep herself warm. Her eyes are scouring the night. Or is it afternoon? With such a dark sky, it's hard to tell. The lightning briefly illuminates the world in jagged flashes, but it might as well be pitch black in between. The sound of sliding gears draws her attention to the sidewalk farthest from her. Olu smiles and sees Jehoiakim getting out of a bronze-colored van with a steam pipe on the roof. Oh, there you are! He smiles and waves at the driver before running across the street, splashing the whole way. Olu shivers again and starts coughing. Fucking smell! I can barely breathe in here. She cracks open the window and rain pours through onto the floor, ice pellets clinking here and there. God damn it. She hurls it shut again in her frustration. I just want some fresh air. A knock comes from the door a minute later, and Olu rushes to the door, opening it quickly. Did you get my inhaler? Jehoiakim shakes his head. They said no prescriptions, no meds. I tried to tell them it was an emergency, I swear. Olu whines. Jehoiakim, I need my inhaler or we need to switch rooms. I can't breathe in here. It's too stuffy and the smell is getting worse. Jehoiakim takes a plastic bag out of his jacket and brings it to the kitchen. I got food, enough for 2 days. That's all I could do. But I have good news. Our lives are about to change. It's gonna get better real soon. Olu watches Jehoiakim take cups and noodles out of the bag, along with some drinks, but all she can think about is things getting worse. Things can't get any better. We've been on the run for weeks now, and I can have an attack any time now. He means so well, and I love him, but I can't think of anything that could make things better. Unless it was a miracle, we could just live like normal people. I got a job, Jehoiakim proclaims, smiling as he takes out an apple. If it goes well, it could lead to more work, and we can get back on our feet again. We could put a down payment on an apartment, maybe even stay one in these rooms for real. Olu shakes her head, rebutting him swiftly. Hell no! You're not even using the right paint. This whole place is a fire hazard. Why would you use paint you can't clean messes off easily for an apartment that's always going to get dirty? The owner is either cheap or intentionally making it impossible to get back deposits. Jehoiakim continues to just smile. I met this guy at the pharmacy and it was just the perfect timing. He watches Olu take a bottle of water he placed on the table for her as she sits down to listen. This really tall dude who looks like someone out of a black and white movie with a top hat saw me arguing with the pharmacist, and he came up to me and asked if I was looking for work. Olu he just walked up to you and asked? That's kind of suspicious. Jehoiakim pulls out a wad of cash, all 20s, and drops it on the table. Pretty sure he might be a drug dealer, but we gotta take what we can. Olu gulps. Okay, I'm listening. Jehoiakim smiles and fills her in on the details. After he's done, Olu refutes the entire thing like Shapiro tearing down a college student with facts and logic. So, you're leaving soon, out of town, and I have to stay here for how long? Boy, we can't stay here for longer than tomorrow. What if someone comes back? What if I have an asthma attack while you're gone? What am I gonna do? Jehoiakim lifts up a coffee container and shakes it. I got you coffee. The hot liquid can open up your airways. I thought it through. Olu can't suppress a bubble of sarcastic giggles as she continues. Okay, so what am I supposed to do? Just brew a cup of joe while I'm suffocating on the floor? Great fucking idea! Jehoiakim's smile plummets like an anvil tied to his feet. Katie, I'm trying. I don't know what to say. I couldn't get the inhaler. I got a job, money, and I'll be back tomorrow. He gets down on his knees and puts his hands on her lap. I'm only trying what I can. That's not good enough. Please, just tell me what you want. I just want you to be happy, and I'm trying. Olu's dry smile fades, and she takes a deep breath. I love you. I know you're trying. I'm thankful. Thank you. I'm just scared. I don't think we've been alone ever since we left, and I'm scared something could happen like last time. If you're not here and can't get me to a hospital, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm glad you got the job. I just don't want to die, okay? Olu's smile returns, softer and less vehement, and Jehoiakim can see she's trying to hold it together without completely breaking down. Another crack, and her dam of glass will shatter, flooding the apartment with misery. The couple standing at the precipice of ruin embrace and share sweet nothings. Their hearts join, and the warmth of their love keep them from falling into a calling pit of darkness. 30 days of running, hiding, starving, dying. It all seems to wash away as they hold each other. The future could only hold good things. How could anything possibly get worse after such a pure and innocent moment of two people expressing such raw emotion for each other? The heavens really crack open and strike them down with malicious disaster? Wouldn't it be a crime to destroy such a bond? Fate does not care about feelings. The man Jehoiakim met was not a drug dealer, nor was he a well-dressed entrepreneur, or even a porn producer. Any of those things would have been preferred to being a high-profile assassin who decided to just fuck with some stranger for the hell of it. When Jehoiakim had left Olu in the death-stench-laden apartment that day to go work with the tall man in gray, it had taken the entire day to reach their destination, all of Monday. On Tuesday, the duo had traveled to a high-class hotel with rich clients, and the target was the groom of a wedding that was being hosted there. All Jehoiakim had to do was stand outside the men's bathroom and not allow the groom inside, forcing him to use the women's. This is where the unnamed assassin was waiting to viciously murder and eviscerate the poor man, smearing blood all over the walls and decorating the stalls with his intestines before leaving the words, "Mother knows best," scrawled on the mirror as a message for everyone who finds the body. Jehoiakim was paid well, and the rest of the day was spent driving him back to the lonely apartment building. No words were spoken between the two men during the drive back. Jehoiakim was too scared that if he uttered a whisper, that he wouldn't make it back to Olu. A little after 3 a.m. on Wednesday, they arrived back outside the apartment building, and the first thought that enters his mind is, "I hope Olu's okay. We need to check into a hotel and get the hell out of here." Before Jehoiakim could escape the vehicle, however, the assassin finally speaks in a low, almost annoyedly exhaustive voice. He says, "The door is locked." Jehoiakim gulps and tries the handle. It won't budge. He casts a panic glance out the window, and through the hard storming rain outside, he can see Olu upstairs in the third window apartment looking out. "My God, am I going to die right here?" "You weren't expecting the job, and I didn't even need you to help me. You're irrelevant, below replaceable, actually a hindrance." He sighs as if talking is draining what little energy he was born with. The little speck of fire that's keeping the small room barely at room temperature. It's all that's left to expend on speech. "I have 6 more targets, and the offer still stands. If you wish to help me this time, I was only testing you to see how much of a coward you are." Another deep breath, as if any second now he could drop dead from the sheer agony of having to communicate. The assassin in gray turns to look at the sweating Jehoiakim. "Take this burner phone and text me your answer within the next 6 hours. If I don't hear from you, then I'm assuming you don't want the job and feel like dying instead." Jehoiakim stares at the man with bulging, fearful eyes, while he stares back at Jehoiakim with emotionless, uncaring marbles. A flicker of an imperceptible, as if forbidden by law, smile appears on the man's face, and he whispers with a playful voice, "Just joking." The lock flips open, and Jehoiakim falls out of the vehicle with the phone in his hand, almost slamming face first onto the flooding street. A stretched out arm slams the door behind him as the bronze van careens off, leaving Jehoiakim alone in the middle of the storm. He picks himself up and shoves the phone into his jacket pocket as he peers back up at the window. Olu is still staring out, and he waves up at her with a broken smile. I don't think she can see me. It's so dark, I can barely see her. What's this storm, anyway? It's been non-stop for days ever since we came to town. It felt like the storm actually followed me out of town, too. As he made his way up the driveway towards the house, he shrugged to himself. I guess it doesn't matter. I got a shit ton of money now, and we'll see if I'm actually gonna help that psychopath for more or just fucking run. I don't like him. I'm fucking terrified of him. But I'll leave it up to her. I've been nothing but trouble for her, and I want to make things right. Jehoiakim runs to the entrance and bursts into the apartment building, his shoes splashing and squelching across the floor and up the stairs. It's only 3 a.m., but we have to leave before the workers get back. Can't let them know we were ever here. Once he reaches the 3rd floor, he's out of breath and leans over, holding himself up on the railing as he catches his breath. Standing at the top of the staircase, a waft of that same god-awful scent he left behind drifts past his nostrils. He looks down the hall and his heart plummets, a fear running a cold finger down his spine. The door to their apartment was thrown wide open. His chest starts aching as his heart skips a beat before returning with a vengeance, battering against his ribcage as he croaks hoarsely. "Olu?" No response. The silence makes his hair stand on end, goosebumps prickling under his clothes. Jehoiakim gulps, and with what little breath he has left, sprints for the door. Once he just about reaches the threshold of the apartment, he suddenly remembers she was just standing in the window. Of course she's still here. But why would she leave the door open? Raising his voice aloud, he continues, "Olu! Olu, what's wrong? You can't just leave the door open like that." He catches his breath for the first time since arriving to the apartment, which reeks even worse than before. As he turns the corner through the front doorway, taking the money out of his pocket, his fingers slides across the burner phone, and the fearful memory of his encounter with the assassin in the van glimpses behind his eyes. The smell is becoming more pervasively pungent as he draws closer to the bedroom. "Hey, we gotta leave. I got enough money for whatever we want." Oh, God, that smell. Jehoiakim buries his nose into the arm of his jacket, where the smell of death has enveloped the room. He thinks to himself, her asthma must be really bad. But why didn't she just leave and go to another room? I can't believe she's just standing there. About to vomit from the odor, he reluctantly steps further into the room, his shadow casted from the hallway light, shifting, revealing his beautiful Olu. But something's not right. He notices her hands are covered in blood, and the smell is getting worse. Tiny droplets of pure crimson nectar plop and drip from her splintered, nailed fingertips in slow intervals. The thud of each one somehow overshadows the storm outside. Her hair is disheveled and matted, and she sways on her feet aloofly with the odd twitch. Her skin is pale, much paler than an ebony-skinned woman should naturally be able to achieve. "Olu, what happened?" Jehoiakim peeks through his elbow. "Baby, what happened to you? Let's go to the hospital." Jehoiakim coughs and desperately tries to hold back from vomiting, turning around as he tries to take a breath of fresh air, if any is left. The awful smell overtakes his senses, driving him away from the bedroom in a fit of coughing so vigorous that it overshadows his concern for his lover. He feels like he was choking on the stench. As he aimlessly spins, he realizes he's not alone in the room. As lightning briefly lights up the room, he spots a man collapsed on the floor. Near the entrance to the bedroom, on the farther side of the doorframe, is a man's body, sprawled across the floor, cloaked in the same oppressive shadows that seems to have descended across the whole apartment. "Oh shit!" Jehoiakim cries out in surprise as he backs up towards the kitchen. "Is that the worker? Are they here?" Continuing aloud, he called out to the man. "Hey man, we don't want any trouble. We're leaving. Hey, you okay? Man, what's wrong?" Lightning strikes again, once more enlightening the room, revealing a quick flash of the giant, pool of blood is soaking the floor. The body lying face down in its own viscera. Realizing the man is long dead, and stifling the scream in the process, Jehoiakim turns his attention back to his girlfriend. Venturing back up the hall, delicately stepping around the blood he'd somehow missed the first time, he finds her standing still, as she had been the entire time, like he didn't exist. She finally turns her attention to him in short, rough twists, her neck struggling to move. You could hear her bones creak in process, and the shuffle of her feet dragging across the carpet as she not so limberly raises her gaze to meet his.
Oh my fucking god!
Another crown of lightning unveils that Olu's eyes are blank, foggy white, just hazy marbles in her sockets. Her skin is sallow but puffy, rigor mortis having already taken a hold. Her once glossy hair had grown dull and mousy, still wretchedly tangled, and her jaw slacked open awkwardly. Her head is tilted at an odd angle, as if she isn't really looking at him, rather through him. A raspy, guttural growl emerged from deep in her throat like a rabid dog snarling through sandpaper. Jehoiakim realizes now the smell isn't coming from the body on the floor. The smell is coming from her.
Olu?
Jehoiakim stammers, retreating the way he came. Olu lunges forward with a heavy left step towards him, but her entire body shakes as her foot lands with a thud, like she's going to fall over. Her eyes are blank and dead, but he begins to think he can feel her staring at it with intense headlights, as if she turned on high beams zeroed in on his soul. She takes another step, her body leaning to one side, the chilling sounds of bones still creaking as she does, struggling to move against a rigor mortis. Fluid seeps from the corner of her mouth, dribbling down her jaw and neck, like the shock seeping into his brain. His very comprehension seems to break, and her condition doesn't seem so startling through the rose-colored glasses of adrenaline. What's happening to you? She reaches out to him with blood-soaked fingers, and Jehoiakim gasps. The air is clouded with fumes as his brain's clarity, cortisone, began pulsing through his veins, further entrenching the denial, quickly settling in. She needs my help. She's sick and she needs me. What the fuck am I doing? I'm so sorry. Let me help you. Jehoiakim rushes over to Olu, his mind lost to hormones, and places his hands on her shoulders. Can you speak? What happened? Olu opens her mouth, and the vapors of rot gusts forth into his face and penetrates his nostrils, deep into his lungs. The vile smell shaking him from his stupor. Jehoiakim jumps back, just narrowly missing her grasp as he retches onto the kitchen floor. As Jehoiakim is distracted by vomiting, Olu shovels closer before throwing her wrought frame over to his back to stiffly reach for his neck. As her fingers wrap around his throat, Jehoiakim chokes on his own puke from the painfully cold touch of his girlfriend. Jehoiakim falls forward to escape her clutches. Scrambling away, she drops to the floor beside him. Jehoiakim crawls over his leftovers and towards the apartment door like a rat. When he reaches the door, he grasps the handle to lift himself up. Olu, akin to the movements of a broken doll, shifts and creaks as she rearranges her body back into a standing position. Cast into brightness by the light from the hallway outside the room, Jehoiakim can finally get a good look at her. Her clothes are soaked in blood. Flies are starting to swarm her, and some are embedded in her clothes. Her lips have a hint of blue in them, and her fingernails are caked in grime and broken. Her stance is gated and unnatural, shifted too far back, and her head hangs strangely. Jehoiakim stares at his beloved, rotting in front of him, and is struck by the same feeling one sees when viewing a road-run dog as another wave of shock denial overcomes him. I can't just leave her like this. What if something happens to her?
I don't know what the fuck is happening, but I can't just leave her.
Jehoiakim's heart is racing with indecision. He watches his girlfriend lurch and shamble towards him, slowly at first, but the more she moves, the easier it seems to be for her as she picks up speed. You have to. A second, colder inner monologue has joined the fray. The voice of reason. Look at her. Look at her, Jehoiakim. That's not your Olu anymore. Her legs, once trailing underneath her as if trudging through thick mud, are now floundering like a baby learning to walk for the first time. Nimble but uncertain, though full of vigorous desire. Jehoiakim takes a step back into the wall.
What the fuck is going on? What happened to her? What happened to that builder? Did she do this to him? What the fuck is happening?
It doesn't matter. The second, more rational voice hisses sternly. You need to get the fuck out of here. Look at that thing. As if on cue, Olu cracks open her mouth, and a broken squeal screeches forth from her decaying maw. Shit fucking Christ! Jehoiakim screams aloud in response and pivots on his heel, racing out of the apartment and slamming the door behind him. He pushes himself back against it as Olu slams into the other side. No! Jehoiakim doesn't even realize he's still screaming as Olu shoves against the door again, trying to force it open. Jehoiakim shrieks, his echo bouncing off the walls and returning to mock him. He plays a frightening tug-of-war with Olu on the other side, barely able to fight back against her seemingly growing strength. Each push edging him further and further away from his position, threatening to throw him off balance. I can't stay here. I need to get out. Jehoiakim whimpers and spots another open door, and without thinking, in his panic, he bolts towards it. Almost falling over himself, he sprints across the hall, spearing into the room and slamming the door behind him, locking it.
I could have just left. What was I thinking? I could have just ran for the stairs. No, I can't leave Olu. I know she's...
His mind's voice trailed off, but he shakes himself vigorously before pulling it back. It doesn't matter what she is. I can't just leave her here, or she might hurt someone else. Like that builder by the door. Oh God. She must have... The thought perishes as Jehoiakim buckles over, another whim of vomit overtaking him. Even over his gagging, he can hear the other apartment door slam open and a heavy plop hit the floor outside. A long, oohing moan calls out from the hall. It's Olu's voice, but it sounds like an alien, a monster, imitating her, not knowing how to speak, but calling out anyway. If If I don't get out of here, the next person will be me. Jehoiakim looks around the room to try and take in his surroundings, but it's pitch black, just like the other apartment. Some of these apartments used to be old hotels that have doors between one room to the next. Not sure why, but I've seen a couple of them. I didn't really get a good look at our room, so maybe I'll get lucky and this place will have them. Though, they're always locked, and they're pretty thick doors. So maybe it doesn't matter. The handle starts shaking like it's possessed, and Jehoiakim shrieks. Reeling from the door as he launches across the room. The door handle keeps shaking, and the door starts thudding back and forth as Olu tries to force herself in. But she can't seem to unlatch the handle, reminiscent of how they'd entered this bloody place in the first place. That moment feels like a lifetime ago now, as Jehoiakim finds the light switch during a flash of lightning and races towards it. Flicking it on, he's quick to begin searching for a way out. Just like the one they were staying in, this room is also a one-bedroom. But unlike theirs, it looks older, with peeling paint and torn, dirty carpet. Scanning the rooms, it seems to be a modern apartment. No luck with the historical eccentricities. Jehoiakim paces around the room, not really looking, but kind of just wishing a way would just show up because he knows he's trapped. There's only one door, and she's outside trying to break it down. There must be another way. He desperately ponders before his gaze settles on the window. The storm is raging on, and thunder cracks outside. Pellets of ice peck at the glass as if goading him, teasing him almost audibly. Yes, this way, Jehoiakim. This way. I'm sure you could climb out safely. You look like a good climber. I'm sure you'd survive the 3-story fall. Olu begins banging against the door, making him jump. I don't know if I have a choice. He sighs aloud. Jehoiakim makes to the window and looks outside. Below him is a 3-story drop to a chain-link fence blocking access to the street, a dumpster, and a back alley. He forces the window open, and the storm breaches the calm sanctity of indoors, his face stung by sleeting cold rain and ice. The window only just opened, but he feels his hands freezing. He immediately flinches from the idea and slams the window shut. The pounding on the door behind him gets louder and more frequent. I don't know what I'm supposed to do! He panics, turning to stare at the door apprehensively as his brain flits about, thinking about what's happened to Olu and what he must do. The only way out is either the window or through her. I'm sure she wants to hurt me. I don't want to believe something happened to her. For some reason, she wants to do that. But I can't deny it anymore. If I go out there, I might... Well, no matter where I choose, it's gonna suck. He takes a step back, triggering a hollow bang, followed by something rolling across the floor. His ears peek curiously, as his eyes settle on a metal pipe lying on the floor behind him. From the construction crew. Jehoiakim picks up the freezing pipe in his hand and remembers how cold Olu's hands were. He wonders aloud, what happened to you? Jehoiakim slowly and carefully approaches the front door, pipe in hand, and peers through the peephole. Olu's eyes are clearly dead. The light of her soul is snuffed out, and the color of her skin, the glow she had, was gone. She's just a husk with a taste for blood. It feels like she's looking at me, he thinks. Her head is bent to the side and flops listlessly in tandem with her arms, like a dismembered machine autopiloting on encoded input commands as they relentlessly pound on the door. What's happened to you? Oh, how did we get here? Like, for fucking real, though, you're like a zombie. Olu doesn't answer. She just continues her tireless barrage against the door. Jehoiakim turns away and slides down to the floor, leaning against the door and pulling his knees up to his chest, gazing at the pipe he's armed himself with. You're still my beautiful Olu. I can't just leave you. He spins the pipe in his hands, inspecting the smooth, perfect craftsmanship, of which he knows nothing about. The weight is enough to cause some heavy damage. If it fell in his hand, it wouldn't break anything, but it would still hurt. The thought of pain, what he must do, is enough to just ignore it completely. The choice he's been saddled with is very clear. He's seen the movies. He knows what must be done. I can't do it, I can't. I'd rather just die here than do. His teeth grit against the words, too cursed to speak. Something I'd regret. Jehoiakim slowly rises to his feet, propelled by a newfound but cold, guilt-fueled determination as the realization dawns on him. It's all my fault we're even here, and you never deserved any of this. I'd be a monster too. He abruptly falls silent as once he checks the peephole to find she's no longer there. Olu? His heart races, and his first thought is she going to hurt someone else? Olu, where'd you go? Outside, he can hear the faint call of another man in the hall. One of the builders had returned to the site, probably in search of the dead man across the hall. Hey, you're not supposed to be here, ma'am. This place is off limits. Jehoiakim gasps and jerks open the door, clambering into the hall. Olu is shambling towards the staircase, where a man's descending from the upper floors, who is unaware of her position, as he's sequestered behind a translucent curtain on the staircase leading to the floor above, draped between the rail of the downstairs staircase and the upwards one. The poor man was simply reacting to the sound of potential tenants of the building, his view up the hallway completely obscured as he reaches the landing. You could hear the man fidgeting with his keys in his hand as he jogs down the staircase, nervous of the confrontation. Also apparent in his voice as he calls ahead just as he reaches the upper landing. He must have been working on the upper levels and only just heard all the confrontation as he headed out for the day, making his way back down the building to the ground floor. He continued to address them as people who failed to vacate. This place is off limits for renovations. You can't be here. It's not my fault some asshole tore the place up with his mojo shit. You were all told to find a place to stay until this was done. So don't pretend like you didn't get the goddamn message. I'm seriously pissed off at you entitled pieces of... As he came into the view of the floor's upward flight, he was looking down at his hands, wiping them clean with a stained rag. However, Olu's movement is much more fluid and free compared to when she was lurching like a broken toy earlier. Since her workout on the door, and she's mere steps away from him by the time he rounds the corner of the curtain's edge. What the hell? The man shouts as he looks up to greet Olu, then Jehoiakim a little farther down the hall. Olu reaches towards the man with her blood-stained fingers. Still, a single step's reach away. Get away from her, man, she's sick! Jehoiakim screams. The man transitioned from yelling at Olu
to recoiling at her touch as Olu leans forward and snatches the man by the throat. Fingers embed themselves into his flesh. He tries to fight back, grasping at her hands, trying to wrench them free while shouting incoherently. Jehoiakim, breaking his stun, leaps forward down the hall to the man's aid. But before he can reach the builder, he starts gargling as his throat begins to spew blood. Olu's fingers completely pierce and plunge into the builder's throat, strangling his windpipe and crushing to the very bone. Her hands twisting and squirming, as if trying to completely eviscerate his neck instead of simply just choking it. The man gargles as the blood forces his way up into his mouth and out of his nose before he finally collapses onto the floor in spasm. Jehoiakim shudders and lets out a terrified squeak, almost like a pig squeal, as Olu falls to her knees over top of him and begins disemboweling the man with her broken claws. Jehoiakim doesn't move. He just stares at the corpse on the floor behind her. If I don't do something now, more people are going to die. It's not going to stop. Olu is gone, and that's not her anymore. I don't know how this happened, but I have to accept it. I can run, but I'll just be leaving her here with someone else to deal with. I need to make this right. Olu's reanimated corpse releases the barely a chunk of flesh from her grip with a heavy to the floor. Her head jerks back to Jehoiakim on an inhuman spiral, and like clockwork, her bloody hands reach towards Jehoiakim, the same as scythes towards their next victim. Death incarnate points at him and declares his soul is next for the ferryman, and he can hear Sharon's call as he waits by the river Styx. Jehoiakim places the pipe in both hands like a bat and takes a deep breath. I'll run when I'm done. Releasing his bated breath slowly, it betrayed the speed of his movement as he charges at Olu's reaching corpse. Every inch gained brings them one step closer to death. But whose? Jehoiakim closes his eyes as a battle cry erupts from his chest. He reaves the pipe over his head and hammers it down with all the strength he could muster at Olu's decaying head. Ha! Jehoiakim screams as the pipe lands with heavy resistance. It feels like it got stuck in something. Oh my god. Is that her skull? I don't want to look. He reluctantly opens his eyes to see what remains of his lovely partner, his one and only, enthralled him during what feels like a lifetime ago. Just like a fool, thinking a coin toss of heads I win and tails you lose is fair. He's just as much a fuck-up as he sees his pipe has actually switched sides and is now encoiled by Olu's anaconda-like fingers. Jehoiakim stammers as he recognizes what just happened, and yelps as she rips the pipes from his hand and brandishes it against him. The harsh breakaway causes him to fall backwards, and he lands with the weight of his disappointment and fear smothering him. The wraith that was once his Olu towers above him, light blazing down from the ceiling, casting a shadow atop Jehoiakim. An unknown breeze sweeps through the hall and brushes her hair. Her scent causes Jehoiakim to want to vomit. With the pipe gripped tight and a frightening speed, The corpse casts the pipe at Jehoiakim's knees with a loud crunch. Jehoiakim screams from the agonizing pain and tries to drag himself backwards away from her, scrabbling desperately with his one leg as he flips over onto his chest in a furious bid to escape the fiend viciously beating his legs with a pipe. I should have just run. Jehoiakim's internal monologue screeches as he can feel himself slowly cripple with each swing of the pipe. He tries to use his legs to push himself forward or stand up to run, but every time he tries, the pipe smacks him down to the floor. Every strike breaking his bones and turning them into jelly. What can I do to get out? I promise I'll fall all the way home if I get another chance. Praying to whatever god or demon will hear his prayers, he spots a paint bucket left by one of the workers ahead of him that's still open. The fuck am I gonna do with that? Jehoiakim outwardly screams in pain as his legs feel entirely liquefied by this point. Soon, the demoness will just be beating lifeless stumps, and he could crawl away without noticing the pain anymore. Jehoiakim reaches the bucket of paint and tips it over, just trying to grab it, the vibrations of their struggle causing him to fumble. Paint spills over all over the floor and under Jehoiakim. He flips onto his back and throws the paint can at the corpse's head as hard as he can. Time seems to slow as he watches the can tumble through the air like their bodies had through the first door of this godforsaken apartment building and making solid contact with what's once Olu. Her hair floats around her almost as if she had fallen into water. Her head jerks back like a flipped switch. He heard an audible snap as something in her jaw gave way, causing her decrepit mouth to fall further agape. Her arms flail outwards as she stumbles back a step, trying to regain its balance for a second, before time reverts and her dead eyes find him again. Horror entraps him as, seemingly almost unhindered, she fluidly finds her stance and begins stumbling back towards Jehoiakim to get in range of smashing his pretty face into the concrete. I don't want to die! As Jehoiakim shrieks, as Olu's corpse suddenly slips on the paint mixed with blood, soaking the floor around her, and she slumps on top of him. Jehoiakim's blood-curdling screams echo throughout the hallway as the creature crawls on top of him, covering it with paint, rotting flesh, blood, and the heavy stench of death. Rotting claws constrict around his throat, sealing away his final words. The last thing he sees is Olu's decaying face seal its miasma-spewing lips over his own. Got a body in the hall. The police officer calls down the stairwell, smacking the plastic curtain out of his face. There's an open door here. Lots of blood in the entrance. Going to check it out. The officer and his partner endeavor further up the apartment hallway towards the construction workers' room, the room where hell was born, while the paramedics wait downstairs for the all clear to come up. Jesus, the smell! The officer's counterpart exclaims, pulling out a rag and covering his face with it like a gas mask. Heavy, dark clouds seem to roll in from nowhere, dimming the apartment to nearly pitch blackness in seconds. The officer tisked, shaking his head as he rounded the threshold into the apartment. Greenie. Oh! He was caught off guard by the hunched silhouette standing in front of the window. Excuse me, ma'am. The other officer, with his gun pointed to the ground, ready for anything apparently, calls out to the woman by the window of the apartment. Ma'am, I'm gonna need you to turn around slowly
with your hands up, okay? You understand. Just put your hands up slowly and turn around where I can see you. The officers move deeper into the toxic-laden apartment, each step making them want to vomit. The woman slowly turns around. Olu's corpse is covered in paint, her dead eyes covered by a thick layer of it. "What the hell happened to you?" the lead officer exclaims, unholstering his cuffs, but drops them with a terrified cry as Jehoiakim's legless, painted and bloody corpse crawls out from the kitchen, grasping towards the officer with demanding hands. "Everybody stay back. Just stay there where we can see." The subordinate shouts with guns raised as the ghoulish couple. But they hesitated too long. The both of them, and their struggle was short-lived. Reunited in death to stalk the living, together forever, the couple sunk to the floor near each other by the window.